want to welcome you all here. I hope you get some time to look around while you're here. And I also want to thank you for coming to this session. In 1966, the U.S. Surgeon General decided to put warnings on cigarettes. I know, most of us remember that. These warnings say things like, smoking seriously harms you and others around you. Smoking causes fatal lung cancer. Smoking kills. Protect children. Don't make them breathe your smoke. So this got me thinking, what if we put signs on the environment telling us things? Signs like poor air quality seriously harms you and others around you. Poor air quality causes fatal lung cancer. Poor air quality kills. Protect children. Don't make them breathe the air. What if we had signs that reminded us that you are where you live, not just that you are what you eat? How about signs that told us to stop driving? So let me see a show of hands. How many of you think this would make any difference? A couple of you, half and half. Maybe probably as much as it makes people stop smoking, which it really doesn't stop you from buying cigarettes or smoking. And so I try to think about how we can get people to improve the environment. It's not through admonitions, it's not through injunctions, it's not through threats, it's not through punishment. And what it requires is a kind of reframing. Now, most talks and most books and articles about improving the environment start with the bad stuff, okay? And it's kind of like saying, we're bad, we've done bad. It starts with the problems and the deficits. It starts with what we don't have and what we don't want. What I'm going to talk to you about today, and what I discuss in this book, Good Urbanism, is how to reframe the question. It's not about ignoring the problem, no. But what it's about is starting with what we do have and what we do want, not what we don't have and what we don't want. And you might say, big difference, it might end up the same, but it doesn't end up the same, not at all. So here's the conventional approach. I'm sure this looks very familiar to you. You got a problem, you do research, you come up with proposals, and you implement them, right? Now this new way of doing things I'm going to tell you about doesn't lose this at all. It embeds it into a larger process. So we take that, we turn it on its side, and then I add this spiraling process. It's 6 steps, and it looks like this. The very first step is prospecting for the gold that is already in individuals and us, every single one of us, that is already in communities, that is already in places. Then you take that gold and you polish it. Then you craft something from that gold, like in this case, a star, inspired by a real star. Then you prototype it. You take that star and you put it on a lanyard, like your necklace there. And then you say, well, I need to tell people about it. I need to promote it. So you take that necklace and you put it on a woman, and you take a picture and you put it in a magazine. You advertise it. You promote it. And finally, and as you all know, we don't stay with all of our projects all of our lives, right? At some point, you hand it over to your clients, to the communities. You present it. It is a present. So the path toward prosperity, and that's what I call this, is 6 steps that are an economy of gifts. They start with the gifts that are already here, and they end with a gift, and then you move on to another project. So typically, the old approach starts with problems and goes directly to propose. Boom. It forgets about the prospecting and the polishing. This approach says, just take a pause. You'll come back to the problem. Take a pause. And these problems propel us to the path toward prosperity. And when you get to the problems at that point, guess what? They don't look like problems anymore. They look like opportunities. And this is where this conference really comes in, is what happens, and this is the buy-in part, but we don't call it buy-in, we call it collective envisioning. And while you're collective envisioning, while you're engaged in this co-creative process, You are indeed rallying the resources to realize the vision. Now, this is happening. I'm not making this up. You all are engaged in it. Many people around the world are engaged in this. And in my field, in urbanism, urban design, we're seeing, in design generally, we're seeing a broad-based movement towards improving design at all scales. And this is because, you all know, sustainability movement, green, 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 right? But sustainability, and I'm not going to read this definition, this is the most well-known definition, is based on the old model, the deficits, the needs, the problems, what we don't have. The definition uses the word needs twice. So when I say gold is the new green, what I mean is that we are shifting now. We are shifting from sustainability to the next level, prosperity. Sustainability means staying the same. Prosperity means getting better. Sustainability starts with needs. It's problem finding with a focus on the past. It sees us as experts and individuals in competition with others. We come up with big solutions, and then maybe you get sustainability if you do all of that right. But this other approach, which we're seeing happening all over the world, this movement towards, some people are calling it thrivability, some are calling it prosperity, and it's prosperity for all, not prosperity for a few. It does not begin with the problems and the needs. It begins with the assets and the gifts with an attitude of respect and appreciation. Then your opportunity finding with a focus on the future, not thinking about the past. We are all catalysts, part of teams involved in co-creation. And what we do is we engage in capacity building, not big solutions that you impose, capacity building. Then you get to prosperity. So I'm going to give you an example of how I did this with a project called Canal Escape. Starting with prospect, we start with personal prospecting. We go into ourselves and say, what do we think should happen? Then we do collective, and then we do place. So here I am in Phoenix, and I see that there are all these canals that were built by Native Americans. And so my personal prospecting, my intuition was water has brought life here. If we want to bring the life back, we need to celebrate the water. I saw that there was the ancient civilization that built the canals, the modern one that built the streets. Let's look at where they intersect. And here's the water coming in. But where it comes in, it looks horrible. The intersections where the canals meet streets. So I discovered that Phoenix actually has more canal miles than Venice and Amsterdam put together. But we don't see ourselves as a canal city. I was living in Phoenix at the time. And so I wrote an article for the Arizona Republic. I was writing for the Republic at the time. In that article, I wrote about all the benefits. You have to enumerate the benefits. You have to paint the vision of what it could be. And I came up with a little tagline so people could get it really quickly. A desert urbanism comprised of vital urban hubs where canals meet major streets. I branded it Canal Escape. Okay, that was the personal. Collective prospecting. I brought in 40 students from my university, which was ASU at the time, University of Colorado. We walked the canals. We video conferenced with each other. We had a symposium. It was free. 250 people from around the community showed up. Okay, we're inviting, we're welcoming, we're partnering. We learned from the past. We learned from cities around the world. And we move on to the next steps. I identified 4 sites along one of the canals. It was called the Grand Canal. And I called them the short, the tall, the grande, and the 20. And here we are, and there's President Lincoln. You all know this. Public sentiment is everything. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. So we invited, we welcomed, we partnered. And when you do that, you protect what you love, you enhance what's underperforming, and then you add what you don't have but would like, in that order. The old model goes the other way around. It says, what do you want? We have a problem. What do you want? Let's add it. But when that happens, it's often added at the expense of what you love. So this is a site I'm going to show you. This is called 16th and Indian School. Ruth Yavez knows that site very well. This is what it looks like now. Here's some more shots, a beautiful methamphetamine billboard, concertina wire, trash, graffiti. So here's a little photo montage that one of my students did of this site. So this is the before. Now I'll show you what he did with that. Same site. Okay? And this was through the co-creation, through talking with the stakeholders on the site. Here's another before and proposal. Before, well, I should say now, and proposal. So I'm not going to go into these in any depth, but look at this guy. See the guy on the bicycle right there in the middle? Okay, watch him because you're going to see him again. You see him? Okay, so this is another site called Metro Center. Some of the students, when we were doing our studies around the world, found these floating gardens in Mexico, south of Mexico City, Xochimilco. They said, hey, we can have floating gardens too. And this was their proposal for the canals. Okay, now we go on to promote. So I'm in the airport, the Phoenix Airport Sky Harbor, and I get one of those free maps. No canals on the maps. And I was horrified. Why aren't there canals in our maps? Can you imagine arriving in Amsterdam and picking up a map in the airport and there not being any canals on the map? So I said to my students, we need to represent Phoenix, represent it in a new way. So we made a new map showing the rivers and the canals and showing all the possible sites for Canalscape. So everyone could look at this and say, oh, that Canalscape would be close to me. And we showed that there were 150 opportunities for Canalscape. Also promoting it, all the students got together and we produced a book. We made 700 copies. We had lots of sponsors and we gave them out for free. So just spreading the word. It's also posted on our website, canalscape.org. You can see the whole book. And we had an exhibit, big exhibit. Thousands and thousands of people came through. 650 people were there on the opening night because it got picked up by the blogosphere. Those are all the students who worked on it with me on the left and our sponsors on the right. One of the students wanted to do an engaged piece at the exhibit, so he went to the boneyard of the company that manages the canals, and he picked up some old pieces. He put them together, made a little easel. As you can see, this is his studio there with the donkey in the background. And we had that in the exhibit. It was Co-Create Canalscape, collaborative vision. So it had a template and people would draw on top of it. And every week we posted these on our website. So you can see some of the things were really practical, like water safety equipment, and others were more fanciful, like sea monsters emerging from the canal, or penguins. This is the exhibit that's up right now. We've had 4 exhibits. This is at Gateway Community College, which is right on a canal. We also co-created with the professional community, and we had a competition with the AIA, and this was one of the winners. And lots of media picked it up. Then we go to prototype. That site where the exhibit is right now looks like this. And one of our proposals was to turn it into something that looks like this. And sure enough, we then presented it, final stage 6. We presented it to the city. We presented it to other groups. And they picked it up, and the city issued an RFP. And one of the respondents was Dwani Plater-Zyberg. I'm very lucky to be part of this team. And this is what it looks like now. This is produced by DPZ. So this is that intersection with the canal going through it. And this is their proposal. So we've actually presented it, and it's moving forward now. So in conclusion, this is not, what I'm not proposing is top-down, obviously. But nor is it bottom-up. It's a combination of the two. I call it sideways urbanism. And the whole lesson from this, part of it is co-creation, but you all know about that already. So what I want to emphasize here today is beginning with the strengths. Shifting, taking your problem, because we do always start with problems usually, but pausing and saying, let's look at the assets, let's look at the gifts that are here. When we begin with the strengths, our greatest problems can become our greatest solutions. they can be blessings in disguise. So you all know the High Line in New York. That's what happened there. It went from being seen as a liability that was going to be torn down, this elevated railroad line, to this incredible asset for the city because they practiced the path toward prosperity. You've seen this, viaducts in cities that are used, but underneath it looks horrible, and you think, well, what are we going to do with that? That's a liability, right? Well, in Vancouver, they saw it as an asset, a great place for community gardens. In Phoenix, I got so tired of people saying, it's so hot. And I thought, wait a minute, let's see. Hey, there's lots of sun, right? It's an asset. If you start to turn it around, it can become a gift. And we could become the world leaders in solar energy. We could do connected shade structures that are beautiful, that provide shade, that wind their way through the city, and even generate energy that goes back into the grid. Another project I was involved with in Phoenix was vacant lots. What do we do with all these vacant lots? And some of my students proposed turning vacant lots into sunflowers and calling it Valley of the Sunflowers. And this is next to a charter school that's for science. They take the sunflowers and they harvest them and they turn them into energy, biofuels for their fleet. And you could take these dark, smelly, dirty alleys that are seen as liabilities and turn them into assets. Take the back alleys, that's what people call them, and turn them into the front porches of our city and make Canal Escape. Thank you.